I want to vote, and I would like you to want to vote. Don't you want to find someone worth believing in? We live on the end of a long chain of people believing in each other, who knew if we, the people, did not gather together and elect a person to rule, someone would take the seat left available. Is there a point to voting for someone you don't know? I will not discuss political names or sides until the next video. Let us, for the next 12 minutes or so, discuss why we should vote and why we should know who we are supporting. It is a civil right, a civic duty to educate yourself and vote. Voting is the result of many hard-won victories, the shedding of much blood by those who knew a society under the law, under a set of equal rules, was worth the sacrifice. We live by the laws because we want to. We know it is better for things to be fair than for one person to benefit from another person's pain or overdrawing from a shared well. Education is knowledge. In the case of voting, we learn that we are voting for the people who will uphold and build upon our laws. Our founders were wise enough to refuse to ratify a constitution without a Bill of Rights. As Americans, we buy into that with our hearts and souls. We form a society together because the majority knows we are attempting to follow what is good, what is fair, what is kind. I say we can be kind and get what is fair by being firm, not accepting what is offered, but demanding what we know by study and preparation to be fair. We do not have to resort to lying and cheating to get what we are owed. In this age of information, equality will be on our side. We want prepared participation. You can say it with me, prepared participation, because you are able, willing, and hungry to know this world, or at least know what your actions in this world will do. We act with knowledge behind our actions because we are wise. Voting was not always the way of life. The United States came about by a collection of travelers who developed a land, pushing out the native people, and eventually struggled in a war to complete their independence, diligently preparing, and when needed, ready to give the ultimate sacrifice. When they learned their English government and king had become immune to reason, unresponsive to pleas through the law, the founders of America rebelled, instructing through word and action that if the ruler is unjust, sees himself above the law, he is a tyrant. A person not only has the right, but the obligation to remove them from power. It is hard for a good man to give up power, but a bad man will fight until they are taken out by the consequences of their poor choices. This is why we in the United States exchange presidential power through voting to minimize political violence. Their cause, equality among people, this ideal drove their will to claim independence in the face of overwhelming odds, for their colonies to defy the will of English king and country. In equality, we are under no king on earth. There is no divine mandate to justify lifelong rulers, only the best chosen from among equals in rotation. We vote every 2 years and ask for one day off where we can go to the polls in peaceful protest. Spend a day learning who is on your ballot. What do they believe in? Are they experienced? This is why we have a two-party system, because we believe the executive and the legislative branch that controls the presidency by protecting the laws is the core of our country. The executive is given the privilege to run this country on the promise the legislative will control the executive from acting against the will of the people. So we simplify, trying to keep choices small. After the primaries, a choice arises between two front runners, only two, to give a chance for this vast population of the United States to figure out who is better for the nation. There was a time when only great nobles had a say, eventually only white men who owned land, then all white men, then white women and men, then people of all color, and now all people over 18. Why 18? We believe you need to know life enough to understand a liar, a sellout, a swindler. 18, the age of an adult, is the age Americans believe a person can identify danger. You need to be 18 because there is no one to guide you in that booth. I pray that the truth will guide you. Do not hide behind ignorance. Voting based only on what the TV has said, not getting under the surface to understand who a candidate is, what have they done, what does it seem they want to do, is a failure of your civic duty. your integrity and dissolves the power of democracy. Don't sell your vote to campaigns running on name recognition. Do not be swindled by empty catchphrases and pleasant talk paid for and followed by for one-sided advertisements. Another powerful tool for some willing news companies is to create an illusion of a result before the truth can be determined. They try, with your conviction, to get you, the American people, to fulfill what they believe will be profitable. Our founders and leaders of the past were chosen by what they did and struggled for. Spend a few hours looking up who these people are, what they will fight for. Each and every face is due equal dignity and respect. Our genetics and gifts open up a possibility, but only our ability to accomplish. The way we act determines how quick and rich is our hunt for happiness. Your job is to find someone who will not hinder this nation, cultivate its equality and hard work, someone who will not tarnish American happiness. I will not answer what happiness is for you. I believe you know what your family wants, what your family needs, how you hope to shelter and provide a future for them. Only you know what you believe this world could be. The people you elect with your vote, are they good businessmen who bring joy to the workers and communities and not leave both employees and customers abused and dissatisfied? This ill will eventually forcing their unwanted business ventures to declare bankruptcy? Or are they smart doctors who have fought conventional science with new experience or fresh integrity to prove necessary truths? Or are they senators that have always fought for the will of the people, not voting to appease a top 3% class we do not see in our neighborhoods, at our jobs, sharing the challenges of our lives? Many senators are willing to pass laws onto the backs of the American people, allowing more unending spending for the top 3%, enterprising unnecessary wars, increasing subsidies for carbon extraction, increasing subsidies for mega farms, continued corporate tax breaks. They do this because they want funding to be re-elected. They want connections so they can get a lucrative job after being pushed out of the government. We vote for president once every 4 years, and until voting day, we can plan ahead and find a way to sacrifice half a day beforehand to be prepared, and another hour or two to come in and submit a ballot. I hope you will vote. I believe we are worth it. And as my father has taught me, why do an action, a job, if you're not going to do it right? Learn who you're putting in charge of your government by learning what they have done. Learn what they have voted for, and then see what they believe in. There are records of their funding, their votes, their prior occupations, their funding. These are their life's resume. There are tax records usually. Be careful over trusting one source or one broadcast angle on a story. We have journalists, entire news agencies paid to not discover. Do not be discouraged as you search outside of the reach of TV and newspaper moguls. There are news agencies out there that have integrity. Some I rely on. I will leave in the description in the details below this video. I learn I can only trust specific reporters. Once I know who I am listening to, I learn whether they have done their homework. Do they actually attempt to argue based on facts? And how those facts have been discovered or established? Do they explain enough of what has happened for me to join their debate and understand their evidence? I think the hardest thing about voting is sometimes it can feel there is no one worth your vote, and it requires so many people. Starting roughly with 350 million Americans, if you take out everyone who can't vote, 230 million. It is a huge hurdle how many people it takes to swing the vote. There were 3 states that were under 1.5% of the population required to swing the vote. In Pennsylvania, in 2016, is roughly 110,000 votes. We could inspire that much change in a state if there was a good choice, a choice between what the TV news has encouraged us to support and an honest, capable leader of all working Americans. You could swing a state with a network of people. First, though, change begins in ourselves, and then gently spreading through the people who share our lives. 3/4 or more might one day participate in our election, and we can get closer to that, election by election, raising the voting percentage. Honestly, we can only take responsibility for ourselves. The only person you can guarantee to vote and know who they are voting for is you.